Imagine Earth as a grand stage, where life plays out with a complexity that engages every living being. This stage, with its towering mountains and deep oceans, is constantly changing, setting the scene for the performances of all creatures, from the smallest ant to the most sentient human. It is more than just scenery. It interacts with us, shapes us, and sometimes seems to guide the way we move through life. From the earliest days of philosophy, people have speculated that life is more than mere survival. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, reflected on the idea that while the events of life may be out of our control, we retain the ability to decide how we respond to them. This idea of being actors on a stage where the plot may be predetermined but the performance is ours to shape, speaks to the timelessness of this metaphor. In our youth, we begin learning the script of life without even realizing it. Our parents, society, and culture hand us roles, expecting us to follow the patterns they've lived before us. We play these roles: child, student, apprentice, absorbing our lines as if they were inevitable. But as we grow, we begin to wonder, is this all there is? We sense that perhaps we are more than just players following a script. Perhaps we are also capable of directing some scenes ourselves. What makes the human experience particularly compelling is this awareness, that we are both the actors and, at times, the observers of our own actions. While animals live by instinct, responding to the environment without hesitation, humans often stop to question, why this role? Why now? And sometimes, we reject the roles handed to us, stepping off the stage altogether in search of new identities and new purposes. The challenge of life is not simply to follow the script, but to engage with it in a way that makes our time on stage feel real, meaningful, and authentic. We face struggles, joys, triumphs, and defeats, all while wondering, is this a play with a deeper purpose, or am I writing my lines as I go? This uncertainty is what makes the play of life so captivating. Is there a script that guides our lives, or are we truly the authors of our destiny? Ancient Greece gave us the concept of fate, where the moirai, spinners of destiny, controlled the threads of life for every being. No one, not even the gods, could escape the fate they were dealt. The idea that life follows a preordained path is comforting for some, as it suggests that our struggles and triumphs are part of a larger design. However, existential thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre rejected this view, famously asserting that existence precedes essence. Sartre argued that life is not handed to us as a fully formed script. Instead, we are born into a world without inherent meaning, and it is up to us to create our own purpose. This freedom can be both exhilarating and terrifying, for it places the responsibility of shaping our lives squarely on our shoulders. Between these two extremes, fate and absolute freedom, many of us experience life as a mix of both. There are moments when it feels as though we are following a path laid out for us, as though the events of our lives are part of some grander plan. Yet, at other times, we sense the power of choice and the potential to break away from any prescribed role. Carl Jung, known for his work on the unconscious mind, introduced the idea of synchronicity, those moments when life feels as though it is guided by something beyond coincidence. When a chance meeting changes the course of our lives, or when we find ourselves at the right place at the right time, it feels as though the universe itself is arranging the plot for us. Yet, Jung also emphasized that much of what we perceive as fate is actually the manifestation of our own unconscious desires. This tension between fate and free will is one of the most fundamental questions of human existence. Are we walking a predetermined path, or do we have the power to rewrite the script as we see fit? Philosophers like Nietzsche push the boundaries of this question by insisting that we must embrace the chaos of life and assert our will to power, creating meaning in a world where none is given. As we move through life, we begin to see how these forces interplay. We make decisions that seem minor at the time, only to discover that they have far-reaching consequences. At times, we feel as though we are simply reacting to the circumstances around us, while in other moments, we seize control and actively shape our futures. Life may be part scripted and part improvised, with each of us playing both actor and director in the unfolding drama. In the theater of life, we wear many masks, each one suited to the role we are asked to play. As children, we accept these masks without question. We learn from our parents, from society, and from culture what is expected of us, and we begin to embody these roles: son, daughter, student, friend. These early masks help us navigate the complexities of the world, giving us a sense of identity and belonging. However, as we grow older, we begin to realize that these masks do not fully define who we are. The roles we play, whether as the hardworking employee, the dutiful parent, or the rebellious youth, are just parts of the whole. Psychologist Erik Erikson identified the development of identity as a central task in human life, particularly during adolescence. In this stage, we begin to question the masks we've been given, exploring who we are beyond the roles imposed on us. Carl Jung, too, saw identity as multifaceted. He spoke of the various archetypes we embody throughout life: the hero, the sage, the shadow. These archetypes are universal, representing the different aspects of our psyche that emerge depending on the situation. The danger comes when we identify too strongly with one mask, mistaking it for our true self. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote extensively about the need to shed these masks in order to live authentically. He warned against the despair of the finite, where individuals become so attached to their social roles that they lose sight of their deeper selves. For Kierkegaard, true authenticity comes from embracing the uncertainty of life and refusing to be confined by the expectations placed on us. Yet the masks we wear serve a purpose. They allow us to function in society, to interact with others, and to fulfill our obligations. The challenge is to wear them without becoming them, to remember that beneath each mask lies a deeper self, one that cannot be fully captured by any role or identity. The modern world often makes this balance difficult. Social media, for example, encourages us to present curated versions of ourselves to the world, making it harder to separate the performance from reality. The pressure to succeed, to appear happy, and to fit societal standards can make it easy to lose sight of who we are beneath the masks. The task, then, is to find a way to integrate these roles without being consumed by them. As Shakespeare himself observed, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. But within each player is a unique soul, capable of more than the roles society assigns. In the theater of life, one question often arises: who watches the performance? Are we playing out our roles for some unseen audience, or are we both the actors and the observers? The concept of an audience, whether divine, cosmic, or internal, has long been a subject of reflection in religion and philosophy. In Christianity, the notion of God as both audience and director is central. Thomas Aquinas believed that God's divine providence orchestrated all events in the world, with each life fitting into a grand, coherent plan. Yet even with this guidance, Aquinas maintained that humans have free will, able to make meaningful choices within this divine narrative. For believers, this provides a comforting sense of purpose, the idea that their lives are being watched, guided, and ultimately judged by a higher power. In Eastern traditions like Hinduism, the cosmic audience takes on a different form. Here, the universe itself is the observer, with life unfolding through the eternal cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. The Hindu concept of Atman, or the inner self, suggests that the true observer of life's play is within each of us. This inner self remains untouched by the dramas of everyday life, watching with quiet detachment as we move from one role to another. Carl Jung expanded on this internal observer through his idea of the witness within. He suggested that much of life's meaning comes from our ability to step back and observe ourselves, to reflect on our actions and understand the unconscious forces that guide us. This self-awareness creates a split between the actor and the observer, allowing us to both participate in and watch the unfolding of our own lives. But if there is an audience, is there also a director? Do we act under the guidance of a hidden force, or are we improvising our lines as we go? Spinoza, in his philosophy of Deus sive natura, God or nature, proposed that the universe itself acts as the director, guiding us through natural laws. For Spinoza, everything is interconnected, and while we may not always understand the larger design, we are part of a harmonious system. Yet, not all agree with this notion of a guiding hand. Existentialist philosophers like Albert Camus argued that life is absurd with no inherent meaning or direction. In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus describes life as a struggle against this absurdity, where we roll the boulder up the hill only to watch it roll down again. The idea of a director is replaced by the harsh reality that we must create our own meaning, even in a universe that offers none. Whether we believe in an omniscient audience or not, one thing remains clear. The way we perceive the director of our lives influences how we approach the stage. For some, the belief in a higher power shapes their choices and actions, while for others, the absence of a director grants them the freedom to improvise, to shape their narrative without constraint. Time plays a vital role in every play, marking the beginning, middle, and end of each scene. But how does time function in the grand play of life? Is it the steady march forward that we perceive, or something more cyclical, more fluid? Physicist Albert Einstein revolutionized our understanding of time, suggesting that it is not a fixed linear phenomenon, but something relative, affected by speed and gravity. This idea aligns with many spiritual traditions that view time as less of a straight line and more of a cycle. In Hinduism, time is understood as Kalachakra, the wheel of time, where creation and destruction follow one another in an endless loop. Life is not a journey from point A to point B, but a series of recurring cycles, each with its own purpose. Yet, in our daily lives, we tend to experience time as a linear progression. The philosopher Martin Heidegger emphasized the importance of this forward movement in his concept of being toward death. For Heidegger, the awareness of our mortality, the knowledge that our time is limited, forces us to live authentically. It is only by confronting the finite nature of time that we can truly engage with life, make meaningful choices, and take responsibility for our actions. Henri Bergson, a French philosopher, also explored the difference between measured time and lived time. While the ticking of the clock measures the passing of hours and days, our subjective experience of time varies greatly. Moments of joy seem to pass in an instant, while periods of suffering or boredom stretch out endlessly. This lived time gives the play of life its emotional texture, reminding us that time is as much about perception as it is about progression. In literature and theater, time is often used to heighten tension and create urgency. Shakespeare, in his tragedies, frequently explores how the awareness of time running out drives his characters to action. Hamlet's contemplation of mortality, Macbeth's desperate grasp at power, and Othello's tragic mistake all hinge on the character's sense that time is slipping away. In life, too, the knowledge that our time is finite shapes our actions. The philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, argued that the awareness of death can lead us to a deeper sense of purpose. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote that it is precisely because life is temporary that we are driven to find meaning in it. Time, then, is not just a backdrop for the play. It is the very element that gives it significance. As we move through life, we are constantly reminded that the play will one day end. The curtain will fall, the stage will be cleared, and our roles will come to a close. But it is this awareness that gives weight to every scene, every line we speak, and every choice we make. Time may be limited, but within those limits lies the potential for depth, growth, and transformation. The tension between free will and destiny has always been at the heart of philosophical debates about life's purpose. Are we free to choose our actions? Or is the course of our lives already mapped out by forces beyond our control? Friedrich Nietzsche famously championed the idea of the will to power, suggesting that human beings have the ability and responsibility to create their own destiny. For Nietzsche, life is a canvas, and we are the artists, shaping our futures through the force of our desires and decisions. His concept of the Übermensch embodies the individual who has transcended societal expectations and embraced their own freedom to create meaning. But if Nietzsche emphasized human freedom, the ancient Greeks reminded us of the limits imposed by fate. In tragedies like Oedipus Rex, the hero's attempts to escape his prophesied fate only lead him to fulfill it. This raises the question: if we are destined to follow a particular path, is free will merely an illusion? Carl Jung offered a more nuanced perspective, suggesting that much of what we perceive as fate is actually the result of unconscious forces. In his work on individuation, Jung argued that the unconscious mind influences our choices in ways we may not realize. Until we become aware of these forces, we may feel as though we are being guided by fate, when in reality, it is our own unexamined desires and fears that are shaping our lives. Historically, many figures have embodied this tension between free will and destiny. Consider Mahatma Gandhi, who spoke of his deep sense of being guided by a higher purpose, yet whose nonviolent resistance to British rule was a conscious, intentional act. Gandhi's life suggests that while we may feel drawn toward certain paths, how we walk them is ultimately up to us. This interplay between free will and destiny gives life its richness and complexity. There are moments when we feel fully in control, as though our actions are entirely our own. At other times, life seems to carry us in a direction we did not choose, as though we are merely following a script. Yet even in those moments, we retain the ability to choose how we respond, to accept, to resist, or to carve out a new path altogether. In the end, life may not present us with clear answers about the nature of free will and destiny. Instead, it offers us the opportunity to explore this tension, to experience the thrill of choosing while remaining open to the mysteries of what lies ahead. In the grand performance of life, relationships serve as the most dynamic and emotionally charged scenes. It is through our interactions with others that we experience the full spectrum of human emotions: love, joy, conflict, betrayal, and forgiveness. Relationships form the heart of the play, shaping not only our sense of self, but also the course of our lives. The philosopher Aristotle described friendship as one of the highest forms of human connection. In Nicomachean Ethics, he argued that friendships based on mutual respect and shared values are essential to living a good life. These relationships help us grow, not only because they provide companionship, but because they challenge us to become better versions of ourselves. But relationships, like all aspects of life, are not always harmonious. Psychologist John Bowlby, who developed attachment theory, showed how early relationships with caregivers shape our ability to form healthy connections later in life. Those with secure attachments tend to form stable, trusting relationships, while those with insecure attachments may struggle with intimacy or experience anxiety in their interactions with others. Romantic relationships often take center stage in the human experience. Love, with its ability to bring both joy and heartache, is perhaps the most profound force that influences our lives. Throughout literature, from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet to Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, romantic love has been portrayed as both an ideal to strive for and a source of intense personal growth. In real life, romantic relationships challenge us to balance vulnerability with strength, teaching us about ourselves in ways that few other experiences can. The philosopher Martin Buber captured this in his concept of I-thou relationships, where two individuals meet each other not as objects to be used, but as whole beings. Such relationships, Buber argued, are rare but transformative, allowing for deep, authentic connection. They contrast with I-it relationships, which are transactional and surface level. Buber's distinction reminds us that relationships have the potential to lift us beyond the mundane and into a realm of profound understanding and unity. However, not all relationships last. The Buddhist concept of impermanence reminds us that everything, including our connections with others, is temporary. People enter our lives and just as naturally may leave. This can be painful, but it is also part of the rhythm of life. The ending of a relationship doesn't erase its importance. Instead, it becomes another chapter in the ongoing story of our lives. Some relationships, especially with family and lifelong friends, may span decades, while others may last only a brief moment. Yet even the shortest encounters can leave a lasting impact. The philosopher Emmanuel Levinas suggested that every interaction with another person carries with it an ethical responsibility. In meeting the gaze of another, we are called to respond with kindness, compassion, and respect. Whether the relationship is fleeting or enduring, it has the potential to shape who we are. In the end, the play of life is not performed in isolation. Our relationships form the web of connections that give the story its depth and complexity. They challenge us, support us, and help us grow into the people we are meant to become. And though the people in our lives may come and go, their presence on our stage is what gives the performance meaning. Beyond the personal, there is the cosmic stage, the Earth itself, the backdrop to all of humanity's stories. The planet is not merely the setting for the play of life, but an active participant in it. The natural world shapes our lives in ways both subtle and profound, reminding us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The ancient Greeks saw nature as imbued with divinity, with gods residing in every mountain, river, and tree. Heraclitus, the pre-Socratic philosopher, famously stated, "Nature loves to hide," suggesting that the true nature of the world is often concealed from human understanding. While we may see only the surface, deeper truths lie beneath, guiding the rhythms of life in ways we cannot fully comprehend. James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis echoed this ancient belief by suggesting that Earth functions as a self-regulating organism. According to Lovelock, the planet's living and non-living components work together to maintain conditions that support life. This idea aligns with indigenous beliefs, which have long seen Earth as a living, conscious entity deserving of respect and reverence. However, in recent centuries, humanity has increasingly distanced itself from nature, viewing the Earth as a resource to be exploited rather than a partner in the dance of life. Martin Heidegger, in his critique of modern technology, warned that this disconnect from the natural world leads to a loss of meaning. When we see the Earth only as a set of resources to be manipulated, we forget our deeper connection to the world around us. But nature remains a powerful force. The cycles of the seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, and the ebb and flow of the tides remind us that we are not separate from the Earth, but deeply interconnected with it. The natural world shapes our lives just as much as our actions shape the world. In moments of stillness, when we step outside the rush of modern life, we can feel this connection. Whether standing on a mountain peak, listening to the waves of the ocean, or simply observing the stars. In many ways, the Earth is both stage and actor, guiding the direction of the play. It sets the scene, providing the conditions necessary for life, and reminds us of the fragility and beauty of existence. As we navigate the complexities of human life, the cosmic stage offers a grounding presence, reminding us that we are part of a larger, unfolding story, one that extends far beyond our individual lives and even beyond humanity itself. Every play eventually ends, and in life, the final act is death. The curtain call is inevitable. No one can escape it, and yet it remains one of the most profound mysteries. What happens after the curtain falls? Do we simply exit the stage? Or is there something waiting for us beyond the final bow? Philosophers and thinkers throughout history have grappled with this question. The Stoics, such as Marcus Aurelius, embraced the idea of death as a natural and inevitable part of life. For Aurelius, death was not to be feared, but accepted. He viewed it as part of the cosmic order, a necessary conclusion to the play that gives life its structure. His writings often reflect on the fleeting nature of existence and the importance of living with virtue, knowing that the curtain could fall at any time. For others, like Plato, death was seen as a transition to a different realm of existence. In his dialogue Phaedo, Plato presents Socrates discussing the immortality of the soul, arguing that death is merely the soul's release from the body. This idea of an afterlife, where the soul continues its journey, has shaped many religious and philosophical views, from Christianity to Hinduism, where the concept of reincarnation suggests that death is not the end, but a gateway to another life. In modern existentialist thought, however, death is often seen as the ultimate absurdity. Albert Camus, in The Myth of Sisyphus, argued that death strips life of any inherent meaning, forcing us to confront the absurdity of our existence. Yet Camus did not see this as a reason for despair. Instead, he believed that we must create our own meaning in the face of death. By living fully and embracing the present, we can find value in life, even if there is no grand script waiting for us after we leave the stage. Martin Heidegger also emphasized the importance of death in shaping how we live. In Being and Time, he introduced the concept of being toward death, suggesting that the awareness of our mortality is what compels us to live authentically. Heidegger believed that confronting the reality of death allows us to make more meaningful choices and to live in accordance with our true selves, rather than being distracted by the trivial concerns of everyday life. Regardless of our beliefs about what happens after death, the awareness that the curtain will fall gives life its urgency and significance. The inevitability of death forces us to think about how we spend our time on stage, how we engage with the roles we play, and the people we share the stage with. It also reminds us that, like any good play, the beauty of life lies not just in its length, but in the quality of the performance. When the curtain falls, what remains? After the performance ends, the legacy we leave behind continues to influence the world, shaping the lives of those who come after us. While we cannot control how we will be remembered, the impact of our actions, both great and small, extends far beyond our time on stage. John Stuart Mill, in his work Utilitarianism, argued that the value of a life lies in the positive effect it has on others. He suggested that our moral duty is to contribute to the greater good, to increase happiness and reduce suffering. From this perspective, our legacy is not about personal achievement, but about how we have made the world a better place. Whether through acts of kindness, the relationships we build, or the contributions we make to society, we shape the future long after we are gone. Psychologist Erik Erikson also explored the idea of legacy through his concept of generativity. In the later stages of life, according to Erikson, individuals seek to create or nurture things that will outlast them, whether by raising children, mentoring the next generation, or contributing to a community or cause. This sense of leaving something behind is essential to achieving a sense of fulfillment in life. However, not all legacies are grand or public. Often, the most meaningful legacies are those that go unnoticed by the world at large, but are deeply felt by the people whose lives we touch. The relationships we build, the kindness we show, the wisdom we pass down. These small acts accumulate into a legacy that shapes the people around us in ways we may never fully understand. Shakespeare famously captured this idea in Sonnet 18, where he reflects on how poetry can grant immortality to the subject of the poem. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. The sonnet suggests that through art, memory, and creation, we can live on even after our physical presence is gone. Yet legacy is not just about memory. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay Self-Reliance, emphasized the importance of authenticity, arguing that the best way to leave a meaningful legacy is to live true to oneself. According to Emerson, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. By living authentically, we inspire others to do the same, and this too becomes part of our legacy. In the end, our legacy is not just about what we leave behind, but about how we live in the present. The actions we take today, whether small gestures of kindness or bold acts of courage, create ripples that will continue long after we are gone. And while we cannot predict how we will be remembered, we can choose to live in a way that reflects the best of who we are, leaving behind a world that is better for our having been in it. At the heart of the human experience lies the question of meaning. Why are we here? What is the purpose of life's performance? These are questions that philosophers, theologians, and scientists have pondered for centuries, each offering different answers, yet none providing a definitive solution. Friedrich Nietzsche famously declared that God is dead, suggesting that traditional sources of meaning, such as religion, were no longer sufficient in the modern world. Without a divine script to follow, Nietzsche argued, we must create our own meaning. This idea, that life has no inherent purpose and that we are responsible for shaping our own destiny, is central to existentialist thought. For Nietzsche, the true challenge of life is to embrace this freedom and to assert our own will, creating value in a world that offers none. Albert Camus, another key figure in existentialism, explored the idea of absurdity in the myth of Sisyphus. Camus argued that life is fundamentally meaningless and that human beings must confront this absurdity. Yet instead of succumbing to despair, Camus believed that we must rebel against the meaninglessness of existence by living fully and passionately. Like Sisyphus, who is condemned to roll a boulder up a hill only to watch it roll back down again, we must find joy and purpose in the act of living, even if the larger narrative is unclear. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, offered a different perspective on the search for meaning. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl argued that meaning is not something we create, but something we discover through our responses to life's challenges. Even in the face of suffering, Frankl believed, we can find purpose by choosing how we respond. For Frankl, the key to meaning lies not in what happens to us, but in how we interpret and engage with our experiences. In Eastern philosophies, meaning is often tied to the concept of dharma, the idea that each individual has a purpose or duty to fulfill within the larger cosmic order. The Bhagavad Gita, a central text in Hindu philosophy, emphasizes the importance of fulfilling one's dharma, regardless of the outcome. Meaning in this view is not tied to success or achievement, but to living in alignment with one's true nature and responsibilities. Ultimately, the question of meaning may never be fully answered. Each individual must grapple with it in their own way, finding purpose through love, work, creativity, or spiritual exploration. Meaning is not a fixed destination, but a journey, one that is constantly evolving as we move through life's stages. What unites all of these perspectives is the idea that meaning is something we actively engage with. Whether we create it, discover it, or simply live in accordance with it, meaning shapes the way we approach the play of life. It is the force that drives us to act, to connect with others, and to leave behind a legacy that matters. If life is a play, then it is one with infinite possibilities. Every choice we make, every path we follow, creates new directions for the story to develop. While some may believe that destiny shapes our lives, the presence of free will suggests that we have the power to direct the play, to change its course in ways that are both surprising and profound. The American philosopher William James championed the idea of free will, arguing that our choices shape not only our individual lives, but the world around us. In his essay, The Will to Believe, James asserted that belief in free will is essential to personal growth and moral responsibility. For James, life is not a predetermined script, but an open narrative, one that we are constantly writing through our decisions and actions. The poet Robert Frost expressed a similar idea in his famous poem, The Road Not Taken. In it, Frost reflects on the importance of choice, suggesting that the paths we take, and the ones we do not, define the shape of our journey. Though we cannot see where the other path might have led, it is our decision to follow one road over another that gives our lives meaning. In this way, life is a constant process of creation. We are not merely actors following a script. We are also the playwrights, shaping the story as we go. This freedom can be daunting, for it places the full weight of responsibility on our shoulders. But it is also exhilarating, as it allows us to explore new possibilities, to reinvent ourselves, and to pursue the life we want to live. Yet, with this freedom comes the challenge of living intentionally. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, famously wrote that we are condemned to be free, meaning that in a world without inherent meaning, we must create our own purpose. This responsibility can feel overwhelming, but it also offers the opportunity to live authentically, to craft a life that reflects our deepest values and desires. In the end, life's play is not static. It is a dynamic, ever-evolving performance filled with infinite potential. Every day, every moment, we are presented with new choices, new opportunities to shape our story. The stage is set, the lights are on, and the possibilities are endless. As we move through the play of life, we are given a profound opportunity to create something meaningful and true. Whether we see life as a divine drama or an existential performance, we all contribute our unique lines and acts to the shared story. What makes life compelling is the choices we make, the moments of doubt, love, and triumph that shape who we are. Some follow the script, while others break free, exploring new ways to engage with the world. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote that humans are condemned to be free, and in this freedom lies the beauty of life's possibilities. The choices we make, to love, forgive, or challenge, define our personal story. It is often the small, ordinary moments that form the true heart of the play. Quiet conversations, acts of kindness, and resilience sustain the performance. As Ralph Waldo Emerson noted, the creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn. Meaning is created in these small, unnoticed acts that ripple outward. And we must remember that we are not alone. The relationships we build give the play its depth and richness. Aristotle believed friendship and connection are essential to a well-lived life. Through these bonds, we enrich the collective performance. Death, though feared, is a natural part of life. Marcus Aurelius viewed it as a reminder to live fully and with purpose. When we recognize the fleeting nature of time, we are prompted to act with intention and leave behind a legacy that reflects our best selves. In the end, the meaning of life's play may not be fully understood until we have lived it and taken our final bow. Soren Kierkegaard believed the meaning lies in the act of living itself. We may not know how the story will end, but we can decide how to engage with the world and create meaning. The curtain is rising. Let the play continue.